The old man will. The old man will. The old man will. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to instead. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds.
Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds. Guys, we have Victor Sears here today. Victor, what's going on?
I've just been catching up with what you guys been working on and going back and digging through my collection from the past 30, 40 years and saw something, a couple things you were doing the other day. I was listening to that presentation by Lindemann on cold electrons, and I was like, wait, I've got a schematic somewhere for that. So I dug that up and thought I'd hit you up.
Right on. Yeah, we were talking in the back. We got some awesome stuff going on here, man. So let's just catch up.
Recording.
Oh, man, I wish I was recording. I usually don't do that unless I ask you, so I didn't ask. You know what I mean?
Cool. Well, I'll try to remember what we said.
Well, we were talking a lot, man, about the stuff kind of like I was telling you what Sean and I were doing and Joe, and we're doing the RAV, and, you know, we're doing the plasma, and we're talking about how simple it actually was to pull this off, to do it. So you want to give a little bit of your perspective on it?
Oh, boy. Which part should I start with? I guess, well, I was watching the other day, you had your discussion, afterward discussion or whatever, on how the Graviflyer's field looks like Earth's field.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, I'm listening to the layers and looking at, and all of a sudden I space off and I'm thinking all the stuff that I've been working with that looked like it. And I was going, well, what you're saying more or less is like what some of the old teachings say, is to become one. And people are like, I don't get it, maybe. But in magnetic and electric fields, one would be hydrogen. The isopotentials of hydrogen. One magnet, but with different bubbles around it. And we're trying to do the same thing with the RAV. And there are 3 dimensions to get over, and hydrogen has 3 valence states that it can jump through. So hydrogen's valence bands, I mean, I've been watching you and Fractal Woman and all these people that are coming up with some of the same stuff. I mean, we're synchronizing. And I've been noticing that. It's almost like cell phones are making us a hive mind or something. But then after realizing that bubble thing, I'm going, well, then a plasma bubble is what we want. We want to get inside that bubble. And I was going, that's something that I've been looking for years. Watching Benny the other day, he had someone on there talking and stated that plasmas have 3 main structures. And he said tendrils and sheets and bubbles. And I went, I had never heard that one before. I knew about the tendrils and sheets. But then I was like, okay, then what I'm looking for is the way to generate the plasma portable with me, battery operated, with the right frequency to do the proper spherical harmonic to imitate a state of hydrogen with a cold electron so that it does not spin up enough to leave orbit and weaken the bubble. So it has to be cold. I discovered, rediscovered going through my old books then, a cold electron source. And it's considered and non-destructive, so you can use it to explore nature. And it's called Kirlian photography. And it uses cold electron emission to light up the subject, such as a leaf. And the book I'm getting it from, it's rather old. I don't know if it's coming. Is it coming through backwards?
No, we see it
Yeah.
Good.
See the leaf? It's lit up by Kirlian. So that means you can touch it. You can be in the bubble.
That's so cool.
And then the other point that we were talking about that I think a lot of people maybe your Graviflyers should have lifted off, but you had them upside down.
Yeah.
And that immediately would suck to the earth harder and never leave. Because as we said, heat rises. So you'd want your hot electron on the bottom. Cold drops, so you'd have your cold electron on the top. You immediately have that adiabatic process that's going on in the atmosphere. You're going to get lightning when the hot reaches the cold. Boom, there's your bubble, if you can control the frequency. So it made me think, okay, I'm looking for a spherical harmonic that's going to be big enough for me to get in and do this, which is going to be a voltage pressure. And it might liken to hop fibers. Hop vibration. I don't know if you guys have heard of that yet. There's people working on gravity where you'll find the right hop fiber, which is this spherical harmonic thing, to find the direct line through your middle, which is your gravity line. And from there, you can control that and lift off. And then using gyroscopics, which is already in the Graviflyer, you can motivate, because a gyroscope will go the directions it's tilted.
Right. So all you would have to do is aim the axis, and then it follows the axis. And
that's why them UAPs tilt.
So hold on. He said something earlier that just got me. He goes, it wants to tip over because the gyroscopic it can't, and because it can't tip over, it has one direction it can go, which is up.
That's a good point.
Totally blew my mind.
Go down. Which, by the way, Victor, and good to see you, man. It's been a long time. I see you're left unchanged. But yeah, it's an experiment I did several months ago. Right, I got this little aluminum cap, like a soda cap. I rigged it up in such a way that I was able to get it to hover ever so slightly above the surface that it was sitting on. Right. It was hooked up to wires and crap. I mean, so it had
electrostatic
damage. And well, it was repulsive. Now, here's the thing: I went to actually go show it because Nathan was live, and I couldn't get on fast enough, so I ended up reconfiguring it in a way that I figured was going to amplify it. But I wasn't thinking at the time; I was just rushing, and I hooked my leads up backwards. And the thing was locking to the table, like locking to the table 100% down, like, and then the entire environment around it kind of went like vibrational. Yeah, the entire environment. That was my experience with it. And then I actually video recorded it, and it happened so fast, and you could see the camera glitching in and out during these times, like almost autofocusing. Except the thing is that it was right at those same times I was experiencing it, and what I experienced was going on for 10, 20 seconds before I killed the reaction. Yeah, you see it going in and out just for a short duration.
Interesting.
So, pretty interesting stuff.
Was it high voltage or electrostatics?
It was a combination of both, because I was throwing off electrostatics, but I was using high voltage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Might have
It was
increased
multi-vectoring is what it was. Yeah.
Something I recently found out. I mean, I don't know how much of it's true, but the video, the people seemed legit. You know how everyone says electromagnetism can't bend light, and when you look at light, it's mostly electric and not magnetic. Well, apparently they were doing these tests on white light, and then they started changing and going, well, let's check the primaries and shit. Apparently, when you get down into the range of red light and infrared, it's 70% magnetism. So something about red.
Right. So ultraviolet white light, it's like there's no magnetic, but then the infrared red light, that's just hot light, hot radiation, which is inverse of magnetism, that like, right, with heat, but yet in that light wave spectrum, it carries the magnetic force. Quite interesting.
Yeah, I thought so after hearing Dr. Wu the other day say that it's all magnetism. And that's the same thing it says in the Awashpi.
Right, so Carillion photography, like they use cobalt lenses, right? It sees the ultraviolet, the lower wave spectrum, and it's the exact invert opposite side of the red-blue shift and the human visible light spectrum.
Well, we put out infrared and UV.
Exactly, but it's one's white is electrical, and then and red is magnetic.
Yeah, and it climbs up through the chakra.
You know what's a little interesting to think about is we always talk about different energy vectoring and how that's directly related to the electromagnetic mode that you end up coming about. Now, the reason I say this is a little twofold, because with what Dr. Yu was saying the other day, I felt like I was hearing myself preach it's all the same, it's just configured differently conversation. I think that the one thing that I disagreed with him on, though, is that it was magnetic by its own virtue. I think that it's circumstantially magnetic and has a magnetic component. And I know that's super nuanced, but it matters. So there was that. But then the second part of it was about the frequency bands that you're seeing in the light and the vectoring. It stands to reason that if when talking about materials, right, we said things might be an insulator up until they're not, right? So everything's got a point where its electromagnetic properties shift, a threshold, right? Well, even when it comes to vectoring, it's kind of got to be the same thing in relationship to frequency, right? So with certain wave bands, it would be easier to create magnetism as opposed to with maybe higher wave bands where the magnetism becomes more drawn in and almost losing the component altogether at higher frequencies. So it's just something to kind of think, keep in mind. I think it goes right in line with everything that we say about resistors and resistance, and how you can increase the amplitude of something, just by adding the resistance, right? It just goes right along with that.
Yeah, because you're allowing for a greater sink for energy to flow to, but it's getting turned into heat. And that's what's weird. If resistors are putting out heat that happens to be magnetism, we're losing energy with the way we make parts. I just watched something too, a guy, a video he just released a few days ago on tuning two coils and getting them resonant. And he says there seems to be a problem in the physics books with how we describe inductance. And that's the one big thing that I've been trying to grasp with my fractal geometries, because I'm showing how some of these constants are related to fractals. And yet, if you're going to build a circuit, inductance is wrong. There's a missing piece. And I just saw a video today on how to clear that one up. But he helps tune coils really well.
What did he do? I'm sorry, what did he end up doing to fix it?
Well, what he showed was that sometimes you can have a coil set up where you find your resonant frequency, but you might actually find a second frequency higher that it'll resonate at.
Got it.
And forces the system to do what's called mode splitting. So it has two frequencies going on, which we know will create a beat third, and sometimes that is just going to turn into distortion and break your coherence. Sometimes it could be reinforcing. And I found a video I think is going to just blow some of the coil people away. It's definitely going to work with the solfeggio music people, the golden ratio people. It fits in with, like I said, a year ago, that fractal geometry led me to something called knot theory. And then you talked about those pillars with knots. I'd like to see that.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole temple of them. Yeah, the pillars with the knots, and they tell you how to tie them. And yeah, it's really cool.
Huh, yeah.
You know, the layers and the RAV work that same way. So they break out into the different frequencies that are slightly offset. And they have these sheath layers, if you want to call them that, which is basically two interacting torsion zones that are occurring because of the differential, in both density and surface area. Okay, so the torsion turns somewhat laminar, if not laminar altogether. And that laminosity between the two of them allow them to like roll off of each other. Like the way I put it was like a root supercharger. You know how they just roll in with each other, just causing the, it's basically a gearing system. It's a fluid gearing system, no different than, a transmission.
Yeah, it reminds me of Transformers.
Well, not necessarily a transmission, but a rear end. It's a pinion gear.
Differential.
One goes into the other, so one rotates this way as this one rotates this way.
It's like a torque converter.
I just got to bring up back to red and blue and hot and cold electricity and DC AC and understanding that. And when you're talking transformers and a inverter to invert, like that root word of it from DC to AC, and then when you go AC to DC, the other root word of it's a rectifier. So when you understand the etymology of that, that's another major thing in understanding this all.
Did you know that before the transistor, they were vacuum tubes? They were called valves.
Yeah.
Like a faucet valve. Yeah.
Exactly.
I made a discovery today, and when I saw you were coming on, first of all, I'd have popped on and say hello no matter what. It's been a long time.
Me too. So I quickly want to show like Christmas cheers, and I don't usually drink, but when I do, you best believe it's in style. And so we got the Monte Cristo, right, Cuban cigar, and then we got, of course, Royal Canadian, right?
Breaking it out hard.
And so, so we got, of course, the ice cubes that gold ionic with the fields. You got to make it proper because it's. Hold on. Let's see if we can show.
Do you have it in there? Let me see.
The fields.
So, did you find you can safely eat that, or is this experimental?
Oh yeah, I've been doing this for like 8 years now, consuming this gold ionic. And lettuce plants, when I gave it some of the purple golds monoatomics, they grew 6 feet tall. And just with this water, it grows 3 times the yield size.
Bernie, your timing couldn't have been better at cutting me off of something important that I gave across today, because you're actually showing a part of it right now.
Right? That's the synchronicity. So that's why. I'm just pouring the drink so I can see before these ice cubes melt, and then I'll let you get back onto it. But yeah, it's.
Well, yeah, no, the ice cubes are a huge part of it, right? So, I found another smoking gun today, though.
Very nice.
That's important stuff, man. All right, so check this out. We know that Sean was getting the fractal snow. as he likes to call it, or as I like to call it, the low energy state condensation. Okay. Then we saw that he also has the actual permanent crystal structure that mimics that fractal snow on the one side of the intermediate substrate. Okay, and it's in both cases dendritic. Okay, so
Would follow.
right. So this is why I wanted to bring it up with Victor here and see what he had to say. But then Bernie's also showing it, so that's perfect too, because what I realized, okay, is that first of all, there's a correlation between, um, uh, 5 and 6 sided, specifically lattice structures and dendrites in the first place. So it's either got to be 5 or 6, which is what we're seeing in the structuring pattern of the high energy state that Nathan shows with the grid. Now, to make that, this is the smoking gun. The dendritic formation only occurs and crystallizes in low energy states. That is the only way that it reaches that formation is under the lowest possible energy state of a phase shift.
Yep.
Okay.
Or transition.
Transition. Correct. That's a phase shift.
Well, phase. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same thing. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. So that's
the math. That fits the ancient math too. Think about it. One of the things that ties to the golden ratio is that 6 divided by 5 is 1.2, 6/5. It brings about your music and the 6-sided structure on Saturn and all kinds of connections. But the 6/5, that's part of my fractals and vortex.
Count 9, right? So when you count 9, I don't know if you saw any of my work that I did on 3, 6, 9 and spiral mathematics, Victor, but there was this hypothesis that I proposed that the relationship of the 5 to the 1 in that sequence, is the completion of the dual rotation. Once that is completion and it's cycled around, the 9 count, okay, adds the third vector, being the 3, 6, and 9, and then that opens up a 9 to 4.5 point relationship that is a pulse third vector, and that brings the math separately from a count 9 mathematic to a count 10 mathematic on the other side. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's the best way I could put it.
Because I remember telling somebody years ago that the 9 base math and the 10 base math that we're given doesn't work, because like 9 is supposed to be the geometry building perfection number, and so when you go to 10, you're trying to pass perfection, and so it encloses it all in 9. But
so it never, so that happens to exactly be the point. It's not ever 9 to 10, it's 9 plus 1. Because the plus 1 then is the establishment of the 4.5, which is the 10th point. The 10th.
I love everything you all are saying, and sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to show. I did pour a little bit of the purple gold 24 carats into my royal purple crown royal ginger ionic gold drink, and tying it all together and what you guys were just discussing with valence shell phase shift fusion. Okay, so everything you guys just discussed, that is my model. VSPS fusion, valence shell phase shift fusion. So just soak that all in, and I'm gonna shut up and let you continue on.
So what I was saying about the establishment of the plus 1, right, with the 4.5, is that what it does is now that repeats the cycle, okay, which makes the sum of the whole 2 rather than 1, with an offset differential of 0.666 to 1.44. So that is the transition from the 9 to 10 doubling around.
I'm going to have
I don't
to
know
see
if that
that.
makes sense to you.
I'm going to have to see it, because the numbers alone that you just said, if we were to take the 4.5 and add the 1 to it for the 5.5, and then that other number, those are part of the discoveries I've made with dealing with fractals and golden ratio. And it's weird.
Oh yeah, y'all are on the 9
many-
code. It's a big thing, and it has to get into well, basically what sacred geometry, pi, phi, and a lot of what Terence Howard's figured out with his linchpin model and the vortex-based mathematics of the bubble fusion and bubble energy density transfers. Just to add that in.
I'm sorry, you were saying, Victor?
I'm trying to transform what he said. Where was I?
You were going on
valence
about the
thing's taking me back to discussing hydrogen and the three. No, the fractal math.
There you go.
A lot of the things I've found, it's strange, but there are certain numbers that fractals will culminate to, like they're a basin of attraction for these numbers to be drawn to. They are calibers of bullets. 7.62, 5.56, 0.22, 9 millimeter. They're also bullets and something else. I lost the tangent.
But the bullets is a good point, because if you think about what a bullet is doing through a rifle barrel, it needs to maintain its best stability and turn the terminal velocity into something other than turbulence, right? And they utilize all sorts of different ways to break the muzzle blast, to keep the stability, etc. But at the end of the day, whether you have that on there or not, it's able to leave the barrel with a asymmetric explosion traveling behind it and still maintain the stability. And it's got to do, definitely, I would agree with you wholeheartedly, like to do with the diameter, and also the ratio of the diameter to the length and the overall
and
geometry.
getting that mass over a trajectory.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of math to go to kill someone.
No joke. Ballistics.
So anyway, I had schematics to share if anybody wants a cold electron source, that instead of building the Kirlian photograph. And I have a YouTube of a guy to share that I think is going to blow some people away, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, let's see the schematic.
I mean, I can either send the schematics out, or let me let my dog out real quick.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Come here.
Man, this is exciting. I'm so happy to have him back.
Oh yeah,
I know. Victor's amazing. Victor's literally my middle name, so I'm just gonna shut up and listen to Victor.
Yeah, I need to get the link to that math you were talking about.
Oh yeah. I could send you a link, but I've even come further with it. So we could get together one day and have a powwow on it and see what you think. I'm sure it needs refining.
Well, I found some equalities in my math too that I want to share. That I've always been told that you can't get no transactions out of equilibrium. And so they were saying, what you don't want equilibrium, you want something to cause it to want to move. And yet I'm hearing people say that the key to this anti-gravity is to maintain equilibrium. Oh,
man, you're what you're just saying is hitting right at the core of what everything we're doing. That's because the whole entire nature of it is to create a non-equilibrium state in a state of asymmetric exchange, right? So they're not pure non-equilibrium states because of the exchange, but all the exchanges are done transiently. So it's done in a field flow.
Behind the scenes. Yeah.
Right, it's done in a field flow. So what ends up happening is when you have the mixing, of everything in the equilibrium state, which has to exist, right? That's what the RAV actually is. It does so in what we're finding out to be a very unique way, although it's not all that surprising. It layers out, okay, and it's that very chase at the center that makes it as strong in its rotation and such and compression, right? But it stays separate, and then it's but for the eddy currents, okay, that allow for the extra dimensional geometries that allow for what I'll refer to as tunneling, right? So you have tunneling events that act as the in-out feed of the relationship between the two sides, the high energy side and the low energy side. It's that feed that asymmetrically allows them to come into a relationship. So it's not a pure equilibrium state, okay? It's always going to be more this or more that. It's an asymmetric stability that's able to be created because of the stability of the environment, the desire of the one and the other to combine in small bits they are under those conditions. But it's the asymmetric exchange. You see, if it was equal, this side and that, then the ratios are off. It doesn't work.
I got a brainstorm going off. I watched something about microtubules, which correlates with graphene tubes and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me realize why we experience time when time is not a flow like we think, it's static. They say that the bigger set of connections you make, and I'm thinking of what you're saying as being these two layers, we're creating connections, entanglement, whatever, nano wormholes to it all, right? So between the two layers, the energy exchange would make the wormhole. That's like the nanotubules in our brain. And they're saying that the more dense you get a network, the slower it experiences time. So what if we can get our bubble to work its nanotubes to a minimum set of connections or maximum to actually control the dilation within?
Absolutely.
There's an article on time control using bubbles in Scientific American, probably after 1991, because that's when I got out of the hospital and was getting into that. This guy, it's not Aronov Bohm, but I think the guy's name is Aronov something. But he says that gravity, in essence, is like this pressure on us. He says if you can get in the middle of a sphere, a bubble, a balloon, and blow it up and then get it to oscillate, time will go backwards because you're dispersing gravity to the outside of the sphere in a larger, weakening it. And if you immediately decrease the bubble and vibrate it, time will project forward. And I'm sitting there going, well, that totally makes sense to why Malcolm Bendel's pressurized spherical system with the proper angular crossovers can make the vortexes to do the plasmoids on the metal, is they're being contained and not allowed to, like us on Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Time
I mean, the
control.
irony of that, though, is right. You'd have to fall into a layer, right? So if you're inside this bubble, because the outer diameter of what that's the nature of what would slow down or reverse the time, right? The inverse would be true of the dead center. And the dead center is where you would ultimately get attracted to, but for something not keeping you off of it.
Well, that's
right?
where you are when you're in the bubble.
Right.
For time translation for a person, they were saying you would need that. And the only thing I can think of is to be able to blow up a plasma soliton around something, which means you got to be inside with your antennas making this pressure, or you'd have to be in a gigantic vacuum chamber pulling the bubble around you. And there's only like NASA that has that.
So, I mean, interestingly enough, there's major correlations with, like transcendental type meditation, circumstances where, the whole idea is to allow your thought, your brain activity to basically reach such a high and low state simultaneously that you're basically working yourself off a Planck scale. And the idea of that is to be able to reach that state of expanse, like you're saying. And once you reach that state of expanse, it's sort of there's a point of no time, where you're just ambient with the static that is, right? And that's sort of that process, and it correlates directly with it, because it has to do with where the consciousness in that state, where it is. The lower the frequency, the greater the expanse is the deal. The higher the frequency, the more focused and pointed the expanse.
But I seen a report where, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask, didn't they do that experiment where they had people that looked into different times and stuff? Yeah, but they used aluminum around them like a mirror.
Rev mirror. The Cozy Rev.
Yeah, so they created the eddy currents in one way, and they just had to create the magnetic field in the other in order to make the time change for the person. So if they're putting off a higher magnetic field than most other people, then it would change the experiment, wouldn't it? It would give you the ability to change in the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that one worked. I know.
Yeah,
it
worked in the sense of consciousness, but like as far as physicality, the density levels are still. You're only right. You're right, because you're only playing with one aspect of it. You're playing with the energy aspect of it, and you're leaving the physical attribute of it behind. If you were to actually able to catch a physical attribute up to it, then it would be same.
But that's the thing. You're traveling within your own body, which means that you had more particles of iron in your body than most people, which you have a higher magnetic field, which means that the only thing you needed was a high eddy current on the outside in order to create the structure within your brain itself. You didn't need it to go any further than that. But if you wanted a field bubble, then absolutely you would have to put it into a field bubble form, which is exactly what the Gravity Flyer is doing. It's compressing it in air, not in a bubble. That's why like an outside covering in aluminum would be so much easier for it, because it would be able to form it easier. Go ahead, Victor. I see it in your face.
Oh, something just clicked. Are you guys familiar with the study on brain waves from monks? And they have these monks that are in these highly meditative states where they're like producing theta waves. Mm-hmm. But then they say that they have not lost their attention to the world, which would be a higher frequency. What they do is, what they found was that you can have a low frequency brainwave, but then on it, like it's a carrier, is a much higher attentive wave. So they're like aware of everything, but yet maintaining peace with it. So what it just reminded me of, remember we were talking about how we needed a vertically and a horizontally polarized antenna?
Mm-hmm.
This was between him and I. Your brain waves are what the antenna's putting out, but that's just the carrier. You got to put a signal on the carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be possible that we're generating fields, but the carrier is missing.
Mm.
Right. And that was actually, by the way, what you just said was exactly the point. You're trying to achieve super high frequency, super low frequency. And that's where like the like general hemispherical synchronization aspect of it comes in.
That's
Because
a deep frequency, right?
yeah, that's where that comes in, because you can entice your conscious waking mind into a high alert state, and actually maintain the driver of it, being the subconscious. That's your antenna. Usually it's sitting there busy telling your telling your conscious mind what it ought to know according to it, through the gatekeeper. You take that gatekeeper out, you throw your conscious mind into a focused state, then you take your unconscious mind, you put it into a relaxed state, or vice versa for that matter too. Works equally inversely well. It ends up being kind of the same thing. And it's that's sort of what allows you to achieve that higher state, which again, once you're able to separate the high and the low, and they're on the either side, well, if there's back and forth communication from the right and left, that you're reaching this point of asymmetric exchange as well, where it's it's the same process as the point, right?
What I found the hardest thing to do when trying to get in that state is not being pulled out of it by a distraction when it happens. Because sometimes I'll be in a state where I swear I am in another location talking with people. I'm learning and conversing. And all of a sudden, a knock or a doorbell or a ring will jerk me back. And then half of what I think I just learned is like not brought back with me. So maintaining that piece of meditation during distraction is so hard nowadays.
Well, the thing is that entire experience just lies in your subconscious mind. So once you disturb the communication between the two, it's cut off. So now comes the ever old problem of finding out what you already know. Like,
I think we're all connected to the record, the Akashic.
Oh yeah, man.
We all
There's something
already know.
By definition, we are all connected to the Akashic record. And funny story about that, I went and I met up with my former 33rd degree Mason worshipful master the other couple months back, and I told him about my buddy Johnny Enoch and my podcast partner Julia Kamen, and them remote viewing a bunch of stuff on my life. I was like, do you think they're government agents, or do you think like it's legit? And his words were, it sounds like they're integrally connected to the Akashic record. And yeah, right. So it was like they literally remote viewed something that happened in my life 20 years prior, and it was when I was in Montreal, and I was with Wu-Tang of all people, and it was some wild stuff, but it was like it shook me to the core. But yeah, anywho, just figured I'd throw that in, Akashic record related, because we are all connected to it. Round two, cheers. Sorry, I'm getting a little tipsy. I don't usually drink fine whiskey and smoke fine Cuban cigars, but when I do it with monatomic gold and class.
Okay.
So shut up and let you guys go.
So isn't that the point, right? So if all the stuff is the same, and it all tends to just be, everything is just another layer of some waveform in a medium, right? And some are stuck and some is not, like the whole point being that you're part of the soup, right? Like when you make chicken soup, right? You take an entire chicken and you have a chicken, and then you put it in the water. And when you come back, yeah, there's still chicken there. Okay, but there's chicken soup in the pot. The water is got the chicken in it, right? So now the chicken is part of the water. But guess what? It was always part of the water. And that's sort of the point. It's all connected there. It's just a matter of finding the connection.
The the chicken or the egg? Wait, they're all from the homunculus, so they came
God.
simultaneously.
The homunculus.
That's so disturbing. Okay.
I think he just wants his own little midget.
Oh,
Mini me.
Mini me. Yeah, you beat me to it.
It definitely don't. It's that it scares the shit out of me because it's like the egg and the chicken. Well, you
oh,
can have
you're
a half
so
human one if you want, but I sure the F wouldn't. But maybe it's how the dog men and the bird men and the different things from before happened. I have a sneaking suspicion, but yeah,
Bernie,
I
you're
intend to
so
do it. I don't want me no freaking chicken homunculus.
no, you're getting a homunculus mini Bernie from now on, man.
Mine is only cartoon. It's Bert and Ernie, and they're cartoon homunculus. Okay.
I'm gonna send him a picture later of his little mini me, his little homunculus.
My loogie has eyes. My loogie has eyes.
Oh,
Bernie has minions.
It's so
oh,
true.
that's even better. Like 50 little Bernies following him, like
So-
coming out of the
Oh my
jars.
god! If you guys aren't aware of the BurnEye Crypto Alchemist lore, my second camera is Bert and Ernie, the cartoon homunculus, and my third camera is the alchemical minions, and it's a bunch of little minion freaking. So it's like these guys right here, because we got
I think
This
we wound them
homunculus has
up.
like a club
minions
foot.
and
You
with
know,
the
I've seen it.
minions. But then
collect
there are
those guys,
homunculus
too.
minions, so there's even more to it. But it's just the same.
Watch out. They're going to be sipping your powdered elements loot soon.
I currently am with fine aged Crown Royal whiskey.
Well, you better watch out, Bernie. Last time they got you sleepwalking, and then they threw you in jail for the night.
No, that's why I'm having a drink before I sleep tonight. All right, just
Hard
keep me
finder.
down.
You better lock yourself to your bed, chain yourself up.
Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
everybody knows that one guy turned himself blue with the colloidal silver. I mean, Bernie's going to turn himself purple.
Yeah.
Then they're going to send him to
Purple
McDonald's.
Smurf.
Or
to make
worse
big-
off, I'm going to be racist. I'm going to turn myself white from white monoatomic.
But you're already
I'm
white.
a racist white powder. Okay, I'm a seven.
That's strange you said that. That makes a possibly total understanding of why in Hindu over in India their gods are blue. Maybe they had the monoatomics long before.
Exactly right, and the blue beings, and like Thoth in alchemy, the blue-headed humanoid, and there's so much to it.
Yep. There's a song goes with it. It goes la 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 la.
It goes, what's the word? The bird is the word. The word is bird. The bird is the word.
Totally Smurf, bro.
Yeah, or we got
man,
Loompas
okay.
and Minions in Willy Wonka's Wild House today. Whatever you want, we got it all.
Wow. Okay.
Here's the
Moving
thing,
on from
I'm
that.
not blue, ought to be, ought to boo. That will kill you. You don't want diatomic oxide blue. This
We
stuff
don't get into
here,
that,
will
Bernie.
kill you, give you heavy metal poisoning. Just the weirdo minion homunculus can handle it, but not you.
Okay. I think that's enough.
I don't even take aspirin.
You want the straight purple.
That shit looked like a urinal cake, Nathan.
But really, you want the white monochrome, if anything.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm trying to get one of those on.
Let's get back to some anti-gravity stuff, guys, and let's get back to some spherical stuff. Hey, real quick, that movie that we were talking about earlier, Victor.
Yeah. You found it?
I think this one is it. And it's called Explorers 1985.
Yes! Explorers. You found it. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, the Stargate and the pyramids, that can wait.
So you want to explain what the movie was about real quick?
the kid has a dream, which I realized is the same thing as having a download in this. He gets a circuit diagram. And so he builds it and realizes it requires a computer. So he gets a little 9-volt Timex Sinclair and hooks it up. And when he turns it on, it pops out this plasma soliton bubble. 1 diameter, it's there. Well, they learn when he turns it on and it traps one of the kids, and he's trying to mess with it, and it goes right in the ground, takes off, goes off somewhere, comes back, and he realizes it's inertialess. The kid wasn't harmed. He tunneled through the earth. They're showing you tunneling. All of it was displayed in that movie. Well, he has another download later that shows him how to build a device that spits out oxygen from the electricity. And so he hooks that up to it, and they realize we can build a spacecraft. So they go and get a piece of a carnival ride that's big enough that the bubble can go around it, and they get inside, and they end up popping up into space, meeting these 2 young aliens that took Dad's spaceship out for a joyride. And they sent the download to the kids because they just wanted to meet someone and have fun. Soliton bubble, tunneling, inertialess,
The NSA saying we're tailing
instant
too much.
travel. I'm going, wow. No wonder
You know why you can't cross through things? Is because when matter is structured, it's structured in a mesh, okay? And it's structured in such a way that it's, if you want to think about it this way, I'm not saying it's the way it is, but it's positives and negatives that make up that. Now, what does that sound like? Well, that sounds like a magnetic inverter, doesn't it? Well, what's a magnetic inverter? That's when you have a net positive charge that's stronger than the others, but the others are surrounding it, right? So when the others are surrounding it, something could get that close, but it can only get that close because it's going to start to lock to it, right? And that would have to be overcome. Now, because it's only magnetism, it's weak, okay? But the thing is it's, you know, you can't cross past it because that's bound. And that's like, you can't break that stronger force, right? But you can pull away from it because, you know, you could overpower that. So it's like, it's very similar in circumstance. Like when you touch something, you can apply pressure to it. Its lattice will have as much give as it has or doesn't. Okay, but you know, the pressure is going to go either more so on one thing or the other, and it's going to be dependent on the lattice structure to make up the density. But you're not going to be able to cross through it. Now, if you take one of the components away, like the electron, for instance, you take all the electrons away, but the stuff stays structured. Well, all of a sudden now it's there's no polarity difference there, so you could actually pass right through it because you don't have this locking condition that would occur. Does that make sense? I don't know.
if it's inertialess.
I just thought that up now, and then it becomes superconductive as well, because at that point, you know, there's nothing to have resistance with it. So that we know that
bubble
superconducting is.
Wouldn't be able to go through the ground.
Sure, you'd be able to go through the ground, right? If you have something that's, you know, like let's say you're net positive, right? If you put a net negative around you, generally speaking, you know what I mean? Like
you'll get grounded. You want to
hold on.
But now what about your environment? If you do that to your environment, then you'd be able to cross through it. That's the thing. So you could remain solid, but it is in a state of flux because you've removed what keeps it together out of the equation.
Okay, when you say
so you could just push that to the side.
That was in the movie.
I didn't see the movie, but the idea here is that if you could push, like, okay, let's just say electrons, that's what holds your matter together, right? If you create a field and it pushes and disperses electrons, but keeps everything else in line, okay, as you transient through it, okay, then you could go through it because there's nothing holding it together. So you remain solid, but your environment becomes malleable. I don't know. Like this, I don't know that I'm describing what I'm saying.
Sounds like the Tolan tech for walking through walls.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the point. Yeah, that is the point.
That you reach a higher energy state than your environment around it, so you're able to pass through it.
You're able to pass through it because when you go toward it, it actually moves what's making it solid in the first place out of the way. It still stays structured,
Maybe.
but you could pass through now, but you're solid.
What if you could take your wavelength, your energy, the higher you go in energy, the wavelength is going to get shorter. So if the wavelength gets short enough to go through the lattice, you don't have to move nothing.
Well, that too. Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. Usually if you move matter that fast, though, it tends to break apart.
Weaken. Yeah, that's what
Material failure, you know?
Hutchinson showed.
Yep.
Yeah, you can liquefy shit. Oh, hey, the Twin Towers.
No, you said it, not me, man.
Yeah, don't say it again. I don't need that problem.
It reminds me of a verse, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You know what's weird about that? There's a fractal that's infinite called Cantor's dust. If you take two of those fractals and put them together in a rotating dispersion, they'll go opposite directions and create the fractal called the Koch snowflake. The one that looks like a snowflake, that's actually two dusts. And the snowflake's dimension is 1.2618. 6/5 is 1.2. These fractals in the vortexes, this.
What'd you call that stuff again? Something dust?
The fractal is by a man named Cantor. People didn't like his math because he came up with a brand new infinity that didn't fit all the other infinities. You take a line and erase the middle third, so you have two sections, right? 2/3, 0.666 again. Take the center out of those. Now you've got four sections of no longer thirds. Now they're what? Sixths or ninths? I'd have to go back and look. I should know this. But anyway, the sections keep getting smaller until you have nothing but a bunch of points spread out along a line. And it's called Cantor's dust. It is the fractal that Benoit Mandelbrot, the man who discovered the whole Mandelbrot set. Okay. So when you look at that pattern of the Mandelbrot with the little nodes, it looks like a man sitting there. That's every potential fractal drawn with one single line. They're all connected in one line, like Jainism, the red thread that passes through everyone's ankle and connects us all. Okay. That Cantor's dust that is in my math, where I found I can create all of the physical properties and geometries, two numbers. And I can build a system, builds up to pi, builds up to phi, builds up to triangular geometries, and it all works with these fractals. So I say I'm trying to work out how induction works with this, and there's something missing there.
Okay, so just let me just share this with you. Sean was experiencing what he called some kind of a dust before he got his crystalline form.
Plasmas create dust and
like plasma, like GANs, gas, atom, nanosolid state, or orbis, orbitally rearranged monatomic element.
Okay, hold on, Bernie. We're trying to get through something real quick.
Potentially.
But he was getting a light to plasma state, okay, before that. So in what he's doing some kind of conversion that's going on. That's why it's imperative here, because what we're talking about is how to get the mathematical formula to get the conversion. And I think that's what you're hitting on.
I'm working on it, and it has to do with ozone being the one particle coming out, and its electrolysis, and hydrogen being the other coming out of it, and it being water vapor, and the ozone being the oxygen that is the proton or particle positive particle from the ground, and that you also have the hydrogen coming from the charge from the sun, and the plasma, and that is the interaction that it's about, and it's electrolysis of atomic hydrogen and oxygen, water, and the monatomic powders of them, whether it's ozone, hydrogen, and water, and the rest of it. It's your quantum powder.
I don't think you'd get ozone. That's O3. You'd get HHO.
Yeah, you get all of them. It's all. That's the thing. It's all white powder in certain aspects that I've been able to make it out of, and out of any element. And no matter what it is, if you're getting the white powder, that's whatever the outcome of the chemical reaction that you have going on, it's going to be one of those combinations.
Well, you could do that by calcining anything you work with. You could just burn it to a calcination point and have white powders.
Yes, that is it. That's what they call it. And sometimes calcination is actually ozone, and sometimes it's actually calcium. They're on the same spectrum.
Calcium. Calcination is a term. It's not a substance.
It's both. It's both.
Calcium is a substance. Calcination is a process.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And it's that there's many meanings to both, but they're intricately related in advanced nuclear electrochemistry / alchemy. But that's a whole other presentation all on its own, but I'm just going to put it out there for now.
Well, I have seen where people apparently are doing 5-volt nuclear reactions. That's why I was saying I'm going to use this cold electron thing to try the Pons-Fleischmann.
So, Victor, you just said a key part, and that is a key threshold of all my electrolysis, is that it's at 5 volts. I always do it at 5 volts because it's the minimum threshold of those reactions, but it's also the maximum that I dare do without triggering mass anion and ion reactions, as well as mass hydrogen production reactions out of the electrolysis when in water and putting in large charges. And that is why I have not blown myself up, and why I haven't nuclear radiated poisoned myself in all of these years when working with this technology.
Well, stay safe then.
There's always that one drink that might go thermal. You just haven't reached critical mass, Bernie. You just haven't reached critical mass.
Magnitudes of energy, you combine them, it will go boom every time. So you just don't want to do it. Like, you don't want to put microwave in with terahertz, in with plasma arc high voltage, and you especially don't want it in with atomic hydrogen production through electrolysis when you have extra catalytic reactions triggering it, as well as when you also have sound, a sonoluminescence also triggering it. And that's a little bit of my secret.
Sounds like you're lighting your farts when you're drinking. Is what it sounds
yeah,
like.
but it's turning. It's not. It's turning water into your farts and lighting them, and it's doing it on a mass level. So, you can turn water into wine, or you can turn water into farts, or you can turn it into nuclear plasma. It's all up to you.
Okay.
Hey, Nathan, I wanted to show you guys something, and when we have Victor on too, I think it would be cool. I'm going to go find it and message it to you, okay? I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm also going to simmer down because I'm 3 deep, so I'm just going to be outside having a smoke. And
You're already this gone at 3 deep?
Up for a day and a half. I was going to bed, and then you guys came on with this, and I was like,
you got like a cheap date
right now, but it's all good. So, yeah.
That would
just too epic of a guest, too epic of a talk. I don't usually drink, but when I do, I'm doing it in class, so I'm going to shut up, and I'm just going to let you guys go.
Okay. Wow. That would have been a cheap bar date there, Victor. 3 in. Wow.
It could be the alcohol is allowing the additives to be absorbed quicker.
Oh, there you go. The monatomic coming in quicker,
the blood-brain barrier.
That's awesome.
you want to see that diagram, or
Yeah, I do.
do you want to see this guy that I found that I think is just phenomenal?
We could do both. Which one you want first?
Where's my? Oh, dang it! I thought I opened my email. Let me check something out. Oh, here it is. Okay, where's that? Bing. Should I share then?
Yeah, go ahead and hit share and pop it up. I'll put it on the screen for you.
Share screen. Okay, can you see that page?
There we go.
So yeah, I don't know if anybody's really into it, but it says the photographs are direct contact prints on film or paper using a high voltage, high frequency power supply. And the Curlians weren't the first to do it. Do I have the next one? Oh, it ain't going to do a slideshow. Dang nabbit. So I guess people can take a picture of that one. Oh, here we go. Where's the rest? So, whoops, get back here. What are you doing? Taking off on me? Okay. The part I liked was this: high voltage potential causes a cold electron emission that is rich in ultraviolet light. So it might also possibly be used as the first stage lighting for a Bendel generator to create plasmoids. And then the circuit uses a power TR1's a step-down transformer that gives you a 25.2 volt AC line, but then it's transformed and rectified down to 5 volts. So this should be able to be done with a 5 or 6 volt supply, which I like because you can take it inside the ship. It says a 4049 hex inverter, so that makes it digital, that 2 gates off the inverter are used to set up an adjustable oscillator using C2, R1, and R2. And the oscillator is adjustable from 500 to 10,000 hertz. So it's a low frequency, which keeps the electron spin slow so that it doesn't attain escape velocity from the plasma you're trying to maintain. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I don't know if we want to zoom in on this circuit or if we need to.
Yeah, if you could.
Let me see if I can surround it and zoom in. Maybe I should try a different program.
And this was called, what kind of a circuit again?
Kirlian. It's a high voltage power supply, but it's made for Kirlian photography. Capital KIRLIAN, I think.
Gotcha.
So it's a Russian researcher named Semyon Kirlian and his wife Valentina. They made photographs during the 70s and published a book called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain by Sheila Ostrander and Lynn Schroeder. So what they found was it is a Kirlian photography has the potential to become a scientific instrument. Notice the operative word potential. Despite any claims to the contrary, this type of photography cannot, as of yet, be used for any medical diagnostic purposes. This is, remember, back in the 70s. This book was produced in 1993, I believe, that I showed you. But it says, herein lies the key for legitimate research by controlling the variable factors like conductivity, pressure, and humidity, as well as the frequency of the discharge. Remember, this is for testing natural things like leaves and funguses and mosses that you want to get photographs of. So conductivity, pressure, and humidity on the plate were important. But that's not what we're going to want to do unless somebody wants to go look at the health issues on this. But it says here then that what you're given is a non-destructive electron source. So it's not hot enough to hurt the living material, and so should be useful, I'm hoping. And it uses a automotive transformer. This transformer over here is a car transformer. And yet, if you take this whole side over here, that's the 5-volt section. All you need is 5 volts to run this logic chip and fire the transistor, which then fires a MOSFET to the auto transformer. And they show it all sitting in a box. Now, I've never seen an auto transformer like that, but apparently this is rather old or a small car. And the circuit sits in here. And then when you close the lid, you've got your potentiometer, your power button, and a metal plate and a light. And the material goes on top of that plate then. Well, it reminded me of a lot of Tesla inventions that were showing plates with radiant energy going to the plate and being collected. Well, this in essence is that invention run backwards.
Okay.
But I thought the cold electron source with proof of its frequency range might be useful to us.
Oh, absolutely.
And then it gets into how to do exposure, and this is probably the part people want that I need to blow up. Just a minute ago, I was able to zoom in on it.
I think you just use the scroll button if it lets you.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm in a different. Let me exit the slideshow and see if I can. Oh,
There
here
it
we
goes.
go. Let me just go pick the page I want. Oh, no.
Just click to the right down there on the bottom. Oh, it's going to say because there's a little zoom in tab on the
Zoom
bottom.
in tab?
Yeah. Just click that back up and check it out.
Okay. We want the schematic now, right? That's the last page. Oh, I see her. All right. Screenshot that there parts list.
I think we're on
You
the wrong
can
page.
see how antiquated this is.
Hold on, I think we're on the wrong page. I'm getting your folders. I'm not getting the right page.
Oh, I see. What happened? Oh, that's weird. Well, how do I close that then?
I don't know. I'm going to take it down until you close it. Then we'll put it right back up.
Okay, here we go. Maybe. There you go. That should do it.
There you go.
So I did hear Ben the other day say something in one of his broadcasts that said, "Oh, I have a circuit here I'm looking at that's transistor firing what I just said. Dang it. Yeah. Something similar to this circuit. So I don't know if he has the same one or not, but
Ben said it on which broadcast? Was he just on his
it was something the other day. He said, I have a new circuit I might try. It's a transistor firing a MOSFET. And I was like, oh, well, this is about the time I should jump on. Because the thing I'm seeing is we don't really need this AC transformer unless you want to build a box at home. We can go straight to the 5 volts, and make this thing portable and put it inside the RAV or the Graviflyer.
Gotcha. You're saying that was just a drop down voltage coming out of that transformer anyway.
Well, yeah, they're going to drop it down and regulate it with a voltage regulator, and So it might be possible just to pass it and go straight to this 4049 hex inverter.
Nice.
Because what it's in essence, what it's doing is like drumming the circuit like your 4 fingers drumming on the table, and then you can go faster and faster up to 10,000 hertz. And it's kind of funny that 10,000 hertz, if that's the drop off, that happens to be one of the crystal modes of a diamond.
Ooh.
That's a frequency that will stimulate a diamond.
Wow. So let me just think of how this works. So you're saying it's putting off different frequencies, but in sequence?
No. How the hex inverter is getting its firing rate, because you want a really fast transformer to get those short impulses, right? To give you the higher energy. It's firing gates inside the hex inverter. It has 8 gates it can turn on. So it's in essence being tuned to go.
I was asking because I found in my 1 megahertz Tesla coil, I found 4 different resonant frequencies, and based on the capacity, based on the capacitance level, I could switch them on and on by just pushing a button by each one and turning it on and go this resonant mode, then this one. But if I hook up 4 coils and then I can do them, I can start playing with the resonance modes in between the coils.
That'd be neat for,
because 2 creates the beat frequency.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then like we said, 1 horizontal plane, 1 vertical plane would make a complete, just like TVs, they need a scan line vertical and then the shift of changing horizontal. And if you look at the back of a dollar bill, there's a little shield with stripes on it and a key. If the key is electricity from Benjamin Franklin, then those stripes are the pattern you need to cause the interference to get your time mirror or whatever to.
Well,
so when I ran all the numbers, by the way, you know what the numbers came to when I plugged the RAVs flow symmetries in, and then I plugged it into the vortex math. It all came out 13s.
13s?
I was sharing that with Nathan the other day.
Lunar. That's a lunar. That's a lunar connection, big time.
Yeah, it's the sum and difference of the right side rotation to the left side rotation with the switches. It's 13, 13.
Cool.
Yeah.
So 26. That's supposed to be the number of the word that's in our DNA.
Well, that's the offset difference between them. Inversely, it's 13. But to digress, and then the equal of one side is 13, which means it's thirds, right?
Anyway, thirds fits in with the Cantor's dust system. I got presentations I want to do on that, but I don't know whether it's like I want to do it here or I notice Old Man has a geometry channel going that don't have a lot right at the moment. And I was thinking of making some contributions there.
Absolutely.
I hate to say it, but the first formula I seen someone respond with, I was like, that don't make sense at all. Sorry. I need to get in there.
Yeah, I was going to say that G that they did in masonry, where they put the G and they put the two looks like arrows on top and arrows on the bottom. Tools.
It's the compass and the straight edge, a 3, 4, 5 triangle and a compass.
Which is basically putting it in gravity.
The 2 tools that, besides the plumb, yeah. And the hammer to break free and anyway. Okay, well, there's a dude named Swim. His last name's Swim. This guy is a polymath. I mean, he is into so much stuff. I went and looked at his study on electromagnetism. He's got these projects he's doing. He's an artist. He's phenomenal anyway. He just posted something like 5 days ago that he's been working on. And when I saw that it utilized knot theory, I was like, oh my God, there's the next step in the evolution, like I was saying. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, send me his link. I think Joe has something to show you real quick, real fast.
Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you this 13 correlation with the RAV. and the spiral math. So if you look at the sum of the right motion and the left motion, okay, you have 7 on one side and 20 on the other, which the difference is then 14. Okay. Then, interestingly enough, if you want to think about the right side as the positive and the left
13?
side as the negative, and you take 7 and you divide it by negative 20, you end up with 13. And then if you subtract 7 from 20, then you end up with, well, negative 13, which was the correlation that I found between the two sides. So the relationship, between the right motion and the left motion was 20/27 and 7/27, right? Of that portion of the motion is the ratio. But again, that's only taken into consideration the what I call the transients, okay? Without the sum of the switch. So, in other words, you have 1, 2 plus 4. Okay, 1 plus 2 plus 4. And then you have 8 plus 7 plus 5. So the 4 where it switches in the center, those are not included in that because those are a separate vectoring. Those are the switch vectorings. And I broke that down into transient figures, switches, and returns. And that's how I've been calculating all the ratios.
So have you determined this 13 to be like a voltage then, or?
No, it's just part of the ratio. The 13 is the common between the two that exists. So when the mix takes place, what their equilibrium, so to speak, would be not equilibrium, but the ratio of the mix amounts to 13 parts.
I think you might have found then a lunar cycle, a lunar frequency, because every year we have 13 full moons. So I think you're onto something where, so when you say transient, are you considering that to be a speed up or a slowdown? Because even nature during an eclipse, when we're in that alignment,
But what I mean by transient is a current state. So in the vectoring, when you're going in the spiral math, okay, as you right, so there's one side that's clockwise and one side that runs the opposite, right, counterclockwise. When you look at it through that one perspective,
that's called phyllotaxis,
right? But the vectoring is never broken, right? It's continuous. So what I'm considering transient would be that particular directional flow before it switches to the other inverse flow state. So one's going down, then it switches, and then it goes down again, right?
Okay.
And then before it goes up. So 1, 2, 4 is one transient sequence. 8, 7, 5 is the other transient sequence. The switch points are 4. Okay, so it switches at 4 to 8, and it switches at 5 to 1 because it's cutting across. The two crossing vectors between 4 and 8 and 5 and 1, which 1 in that case is really 10. That's the creation of the plus 1. Okay, the difference between them where they cross is the 4.5. 4.5 falls directly in between 5 and 4 and is half of 9. So it is the squared half of the entire sequence at that point, right? So I don't know, just thinking aloud, but I found that weird correlation with 13 and the two sides. And I don't like to hang on to anything for esoteric purposes, but it seems to be the number of parts, because again, I view all these things as fractions and relationships.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, fractions
Like
and
Ohm's
relations.
law, everything. If you look at all equations, there's a ratio of something, distance to
Exactly.
time, the change in rate of time, or yeah, there's always ratios.
Right. And I was talking to Nathan the other day about prime numbers and the how the prime numbers are critical because they're the first of the kind, right? They can't happen again. You could
They're
derive other
indivisible
numbers
too.
from them, but you can't derive lesser numbers from them,
Right.
lesser
They're the
proportions.
building blocks.
Exactly. So those prime configurations when you're dealing with numbers of parts, okay, are always going to be fairly critical because everything else could be broken down into a lesser amount. When the stuff breaks down into lesser amounts, that's when the proportions and the ratios become more significant, and it becomes more coded. So there'd end up being parts, and the parts could be super weird because they might not share the same sequencing. In other words, you can have, you know, uh, the thirds, as one part, but then you could have, twelfths, which is the same as halves, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fractions of halves. So or 12 was a bad example because that actually reduces down into
Has a
three.
lot of advisors.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. Like it could be off fractions. It's all to do with the prime number, though. At the end of the day.
I saw a video on primes I think you're gonna like. This man took primes, turned them into frequencies, evenly distributed them like a Fourier transform, then wrapped them around a sphere, and he found out that the prime numbers themselves generate a field all by themselves that has infinite storage and memory and capability. Just without space or vacuum, just numbers alone. And Max Tegmark, a physicist, says he believes the universe, kind of like a simulation, is all numbers. So anyway,
I mean,
I think
whether
you'll
it's
like
numbers, actuality, or just proportions and interactions, I mean,
numbers.
it's all realistically the same. I mean, the way to visualize what I'm saying is cymatics, right? So, if you take certain frequencies that are, in certain proportions with other things, you run them in certain arrangements. That is your code, because then what you end up with is you have either a standing wave pattern where it's fixed in its position, or you have a standing wave pattern that might actually be morphing and changing as the frequency bands interact. And that
Okay.
is the nature of the arrangement of all the lattices and everything that we talk about. So realistically, this is the stuff. It's all keyed and code.
You're going to like this. You're going to
Okay.
like what I got to show you next if there's time.
Nice. That's the swim guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I get to the channel to show what you're looking for?
You want me to play it or do you want to play it?
You can play. There's no music in the background or anything, is there?
If it is, it's his. It plays already.
Go for it.
Well, I can
Put it up.
pop her up, I guess.
Nice.
I'll show his website. Okay, his website is called madebyswim.com. And he's got all kinds of research, okay, all these different really cool projects, art, everything. Okay, the man is like genius. But the project that made me curious was he's got these art, electromagnetism. He's got exactly the same picture.
Look at that picture. Oh,
I have this in my fractal math, almost identical. And when I saw that, I was like, man after my own heart, I got to go check his shit out, right?
Yep, it's a Taurus,
Mm-hmm.
but not a donut like people keep on
Well, it's more like
thinking
the
and
Earth.
saying.
It's more like a single charge.
Yeah.
The basic what Tesla said, electrons don't exist. It's a vortex in the ether. This guy believes in ether. Okay. So that was one of his works. Here's this plasma that he's working on. And when I saw Sean's work and stuff, I was like, wow, this oven's huge. The big charge bumps start moving around. Oh, something happened.
Nathan, did you? Yeah, I don't know if that was going to be something I brought up anyway, but I wanted to know what Victor was thinking about the structuring of the flare. As we so lovingly call it.
Well, I watched his spectrographic, and it was very low in UV, but very high in infrared. So I think he was creating that infrared state where he was getting very magnetic without the heat overcoming the magnetism. So shit couldn't help but coalesce dendritic if he's
So that
boiling
was
it
on
off.
Sean's experiment, but Nathan had a separate experiment, which is the other half of the equation. And I guess you'll just have to see it and take a look. If you haven't seen it, your mind's about to be blown.
Which one did you want to see?
The,
Hold on.
the one that's structured out. Remember the one that I did the overlays on? But don't worry about the overlays. The zoomed in ball that's structured out.
This project, 42, is the one you guys want to watch.
Okay.
He was programming these particle animations, and I don't know if this is one of them.
How do we access the site,
this?
Victor?
Go ahead.
Hold on, play that again.
These are knots wrapped around a torus with a golden ratio division playing with the 222.2 and the 137.5 degree angles of the golden ratio in a circle. And he found phenomenon he could not explain, so he wrote software to figure it out. It is totally going to change the way people start wrapping coils, I believe, when you see what it breaks down to. This is the display he was making for the art, but the software and what he came up with is just mind-blowing.
But the visual of it is just how we can viscerally experience what it is that it's otherwise showing. I mean, that's realistically it.
Oh, he gives a whole
When
chart
you
of what everything is.
When you change the temperament from Pythagorean to a just temperament, and the frequencies change, the patterns around the torus change.
Yep.
The winding interval is 137.5 degrees, so he's not going point to point like a rodent does. It's a wrap that, well, when you see it, it's different. But the fields, oh my God, when I saw the actual presentation and his explanation, it was like I saw motions and movements. Like there's a couple that are rings getting bigger and smaller, like this one. And they wrap around. And when you get the three of them.
Yeah, you got to remember, you're seeing that kind of two-dimensionally anyway, but those are multi-dimensional shapes and motions.
Yes, I'm getting to that.
Because it's cycling with the torus is the point.
I'm getting to that. Check it out. See how the windings are much different? They change depending upon the frequency. So every frequency would have a different winding in a knot theory. There would not be one universal coil.
Yeah, what you're getting is different shapes that are coming into the third dimension on a 2D plane, from the fourth dimension. So you're getting cross sections of that fourth dimensional object.
It's not a physical coil, it's three-dimensional.
Yeah.
He's got all your angles to show you the three-dimensional. This is a coil form, just like, but the windings are different.
Yeah, that looks familiar to me.
Windings are different for each layer.
Well, no, they don't crisscross. Look at these. They're all parallel. They wrap around it in a knot form. They never, well, here, I better just go to the, am I still on? Am I still sharing screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Guys, I'll be right back.
Wait a minute.
Ratio, Fibonacci sequence, the cymatics.
That doesn't seem to be on the right screen. Oh, there we go. Now it's on the right screen.
Between torus knots, the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, the cymatics. I want to share with you this theorem in which we go from understanding basic torus knots to a novel and effective way of visualizing musical frequencies. I started playing around with torus knots because I wanted to create a couple of animations with them. While exploring them through the lens of 3D modeling and animation, I noticed something remarkable. Patterns I did not expect. Correlations to musical frequencies in their intervals. It led me down into this rabbit hole, and in this video I'd like to take you along for the ride. This one is called Toroidal knot cymatics. Let's take the shape of a toner. Its outer surface is called a torus. Let me take a string and wrap it around that surface, over, through the hole, yet eventually we join its ends to form one continuous loop. That loop is known as a torus knot. There are many different torus knots, each with their own unique geometries. To help us forward and identify them, we label them using two values, P and Q. The P value tells us how many times the knot goes around the torus, and the Q value tells us how many times it passes through the torus. For example, the torus knot 2 times around, 3 times through, gives us the trefoil or knot.
My energy bill dropped from $150 to $50 by doing this. My friends laughed at me when I spent.
If we swap those values, we get a different shape. Other combinations like 5-3 or 3-7 create even more intricate knots. But if either number is 0, the string only goes to or only around the torus, leaving us with a simple loop. But in this complex, this is called an unknot. An easy way to classify one of these knots is to unwrap the torus onto a square grip. On the vertical y-axis we count our p steps, and on the horizontal axis we count our q steps. A useful rule is that p and q must share no common divisors except 1, which means that they're relatively prime. If the greatest common divisor, abbreviated to GCD here, is equal to 1, the string closes into one continuous knot. If that GCD is greater than 1, the knot exists of multiple separate loops which are called torus links. A last example of this is 3-3, which produces 3 separate links instead of a single knot. Another way to look at torus knots is by plotting their orthographic projections, which is basically looking at them from the top, front and side views. Bontenul is higher and the geometries will get wilder, but as long as P and Q are relatively prime, we'll always end up with a single torus knot. One of the measurements that we could take from a torus knot is the winding interval. The winding interval is the angle in degrees between each pass over the equator of the torus. Take a torus knot 5-6. We could calculate its winding interval in degrees with the following formula. When we multiply our p value by 360 degrees, we get the total amount of degrees covered by the entire knot. When we identify this number by a q value, we get the amount of degrees between each pass over the equator. In this case, we get a winding interval of 300 degrees. When we slowly raise the winding interval, we can see that for all of these values we do not get a torus knot. This is because this number must be able to multiply to a multiple of 360 to be able to form a closed loop. One of the next suitable winding intervals that multiplies to a multiple of 360 is 300.148834 degrees, which generates a knot with a configuration of 336, 4, and 3. Again, we can see that the greatest common divisor is 1, which confirms that this torus knot is one closed singular loop. One example of what I really wanted to do with torus knots in 3D modeling is animating a smoke ring floating through the air. I figured that the torus knot will make the perfect track for the smoke particles to travel on. To start placing these smoke particles on that track, I simply divide the track to get a collection of points equally spaced along the torus knot. We could call this value f, which is short for frequency. Let's start with an amount of 33 points. We can see that we get a nice even distribution of points, and really just a starting point, we can see that the particles smoothly move along the track, just like we'd expect. But now, let's see the complexity of a torus knot so that we have a bit more real estate to plot our points on. The value I really wanted to try and use for a more complicated torus knot is the winding interval of 137.5 degrees. This value is not just any random value. This number is also known as the golden angle. The golden angle is the value you get when you take the golden ratio of the circumference of a circle. If you haven't heard about the golden ratio yet, the golden ratio is the ratio where the smaller is to the larger, as the larger is to the whole. This is a very powerful ratio. If you know how to recognize it, it shows up almost everywhere you look. If you want to learn more about this ratio, and more specifically the golden angle, I would highly recommend taking a look at the work of John Edmark. After entering this value as the winding interval, I was generally surprised to find that the golden angle of 137.5 degrees actually multiplies into a multiple of 360. This produces a valid torus knot classified as T55 144. I hadn't noticed this property of the golden angle before, and I suspect most people haven't either, since I couldn't find any references to it online. If you're familiar with these values, you will also recognize them as part of the Fibonacci sequence. When we realize that Born is the greatest common divisor of any 3 consecutive Fibonacci numbers, it makes sense that we could take any of these pairs to create a torus knot. When we plug 2 consecutive values into a formula, we get the largest section of the phi ratio, 222.5 degrees. When we take the first and third numbers from any 3 consecutive Fibonacci values, we get the smaller section of 137.5 degrees. The larger numbers we use, the closer we get to the value of the golden ratio. When generating these knots from the Fibonacci sequence, the configuration of T55 144 is the first one that actually resembles the number of phi very closely. That's why this torus knot earned itself the nickname of the golden toroidal knot. Running into this property of the golden angle felt like a happy accident, and the next surprise came shortly after this one. Again, we can now plot our points on our track. To plot a series with evenly spaced nodes on a golden toroidal knot, we can enter a frequency and watch our points appear.
Hey, so before I forget on this, Victor, remember before when I was talking about the 0.666 and the 1.44? Okay, I now recall why I proposed that the sum of the whole was greater than 1 was based on the Fibonacci sequence and the 1, 1, because I proposed that the 1, 1 was the 2 parts of the whole with the value of 2. That's what I proposed about Fibonacci. So, just to add some context to what I had said earlier about that relationship.
Well, what you were saying about prime numbers, did you notice how this guy said as long as they're mostly prime?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, I just figured this is a perfect segue into this.
We can actually see a wide array of patterns spontaneously appearing. And not just any patterns. By adjusting a single value, we're apparently generating a massive range of torus knots, torus legs, and knots right onto a golden toroidal knot.
So see, he's made one torus, the golden torus knot, but then changes the frequency on it, and the fields generate these patterns. And he shows that picture of that coil, and all the lines in it are parallel. There are no crossing overs.
Right.
Because when you cross over, you create vortexes. If you create vortexes that bleed, That's why I don't believe what Malcolm Bendel's doing with the coil. I think he's got something else in mind he's trying to discover, and it's not what he said. But that's my theory. Let's finish this anyway. One coil, changing the frequency.
To be honest, this just blew me away. When we pan over a range of frequency values, we can witness a mesmerizing dance of patterns appearing and disintegrating. So this is the moment where I say, nice. Because with this, we could create very complex animations just by doing a bit of frequency modulation. Next, what started to catch my attention is that a lot of these Vogelfind patterns appear at familiar values, like 330, 440, 432, 618, and more. I say familiar values because many of these numbers actually correspond with the frequencies we use to tune our musical instruments to. 440, for example, is what contemporary musicians know as the standard constant pitch A, only half this frequency to 220. We double it to 880. We can see a clear continuity in the pattern that's being generated. This half-figure doubling is one of the most fundamental harmonic intervals of music, the octave. We can also see that there are many patterns being generated at key intervals in between these values. Now we can ask ourselves if this could be a relatively simple, visual way to represent fundamental frequencies in their musical intervals. To find that out, you have to dig a little bit deeper. As you may have heard, Latin music is based on a system of 8 tones with 5 semitones in between them. But it's important to understand that these tones don't correspond to fixed frequencies. Instead, they represent intervals. More specifically, the ratios between the frequencies. To get actual values in hertz, we need a reference pitch, the starting point. That's what we call standard concert pitch. What that pitch should be has been debated for centuries. Pythagoras philosophized that they should be at 432 hertz. In 1859, the French government decided it's 435 hertz. In Britain, they wanted it to match the pitch of the Queen's Hall organ. Around the same time, in Germany, Johann Scheibler invented the tonometer, and he concluded it should be at 440 hertz. However, many Italian opera singers strongly opposed this, since such an increase in pitch would greatly strain the vocal cords during singing. Eventually, in 1939, an international conference settled on A at 440 hertz as the official global standard, a decision later adopted by the International Organization for Standardization. Still, some musicians argue that 440 hertz feels off, and that 432 hertz resonates more naturally with the human perception. Debates about constant pitch are still ongoing today. Now, what's fascinating is that when we plot 432 hertz and 440 hertz on the golden toroidal knot, we can see two very distinct patterns appear. At 432 hertz, we get a clear set of toroidal unknots. At 440 hertz, we see poloidal unknots appear. So while there is no universally agreed upon correct concert pitch, it is clear that each tuning creates its own unique visual signature on a golden toroidal knot. Now that we have some background on standard concert pitch as a calibration frequency, we can move on to the musical interval.
Hold on, pause that real quick.
Earlier, we calculate the octave.
That was what we were just talking about with the crossing fields.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
One's up and down, one's left and right. It's two halves the whole.
So the thing, okay, so like kind of for our purposes, and just want to kind of put this together, is if you take the ratios that were shown there, okay, and you have that be how you're structuring in your intermedium, okay, which is based on, your crossing values like we were talking about the other day. We have Sean's part on one side, Nathan's part on the other simultaneously. It will arrange based on your modulation. So if you know what the structural modulation is, its fractal repeating pattern, you could then sit there and have it modulate back and forth, creating layer and after layer of.
But that's what the beat frequency's doing. It's working in between the two.
Well, that's exactly what the beat frequency, that's what's creating this in the first place, is the beat frequency. That's the motion that's occurring.
Well, the beat frequency is the beat frequency is a result of the two different frequencies interacting with each other.
Correct.
So
Some
hold on,
difference.
but that means that when they adjust those Tesla coils that are on each side of you for that MHD, I think is machine.
MWO.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Mhm.
If you set one at 400 and one at 432, you get a binaural beat in between. That's what they're
But the
looking for.
MWO doesn't do, but
It's
one pressure to both.
so as it
Hold on,
as
they
it
should be.
traverses,
Hold on, there should be two different frequencies.
no,
But
it
they should be. If
doesn't
they're
have.
not, they built it wrong.
Hold on.
It's
So check this, Nathan. Check it out. You're missing something. Before you go down a path that I'll just have to convince you of later. Okay, as the
no, you won't. Trust me, you
check,
won't. I built it.
as the waveform, okay, traverses that specific pattern, okay, it's going through different modular events, okay, and the modular event is in interaction with itself, and it's either in constructive or deconstructive modulation with itself. So as it traverses through, the constructive events occur and create a nodal point, where the deconstructive events actually hold those nodal points in place. As that modulation further moves, depending on what the waveform interaction is with itself, again, okay, it could either stay in place or it could be what would appear to be in motion and move. And that's the thing, is it's actually just interfering with itself, either constructively or deconstructively. And that's what I'm saying. So you create a beat frequency with itself and how it interacts with itself based on the offset distances and wraps. Okay, so that's the ratio in which the interaction is, and the reason it varies is because the wavelength is different. Okay,
Okay,
so
hold on.
and that's
Hold
the
on.
point.
So you're saying they're set at the exact same frequency, the two coils.
It's not two coils; it's one.
Yeah,
one.
the multi-wave point of that thing comes from the different diameters of rings that are set up in the antennas with the different gaps.
Which is a different frequency.
Supposedly, yeah.
So,
But being electrostatic and only they're going through induction, so it gets weaker and weaker the higher you go, which is good. But
so hold on. Let me just clarify, because I build these things. Every Tesla coil with a different load has a different frequency. As you have two different loads, which just means the mass of the copper attached to it or the brass attached to it, that means the frequency changes, which means if you have two different ones going off at the same time, you have two different frequencies, not one at the same frequency. Means they're opposite of each other, which means you get a binaural beat frequency through it. You can't have beats with through the same frequency. It doesn't work. It's impossible. I put it up in Tesla coils and showed it. It does not work.
Yeah, but this isn't a Tesla coil. It's the thing.
They are. They're sideways Tesla coils with big rings.
kind of, it's sort of what he's built is almost like a broken.
That's what they are. I could freaking show you a picture. That's what they physically are.
I mean, when he was showing how he turns it, okay, it's a certain turn per angle, okay, and then where it overlaps is a link between the two, and it's when it's mapped out in that way, it
I
creates.
wasn't talking about the guy's map we just saw right now. We were talking about that M whatever machine.
MWO.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't talking about that. We're watching a video on something else entirely.
Well, I know that, but I brought that up, and then we were having a sidebar conversation about it, and then you went back to this.
Oh, I didn't realize that you went back. I'm sorry. So
yeah, we're on the wrong page.
Oh, okay, my bad. So it is what it is. Sorry.
I could literally build that machine in my sleep.
Oh, the machine. Okay, yeah. I didn't realize we backtracked. My bad.
It's okay. No, the guy. What you said with the guy was right.
Yeah,
they're opposite of each
I don't
other.
understand what you're saying. I was like, it's all interference. I was like,
no, but they tie in together because they're opposite of each other in that the frequency's off by just enough that it creates the beat.
Yeah. Well, there's
I could do this in light bulbs all day long. I can put beat frequencies in light bulbs all day long. You can stand in between them, get the binary beats in your body. If I can lower the frequency of it, it's really going to wreak some havoc.
But what I was saying all along is I wanted you to show Victor what we were discussing the other day on the live, because I don't think he saw it, with the layer structuring, because that's exactly what we're dealing with. And I wanted to see that this is actually occurring.
Okay, real quick.
Energy side.
All right. I don't know that we could play the whole video without getting in trouble. Anyway, could we get the link to it so that we can drop it in the description for everybody to watch it on their own? I know if we watch the whole thing, they're gonna nail me.
Oh, okay. Share. Copy. And I can paste that in here in chat, right?
Yeah, you should be able to put it in the private chat or regular chat. I don't see the. There it is in my private chat. There you go. I'll put it up right now.
Yeah, I don't know. The guy's work, I just found it stunning.
Yeah.
The potential there for, field mixing and everything. It just seemed to be a different, it seemed to be an evolution of the coil.
Well, he mapped it. This is what he's doing. He's mapping the coil.
And he just finished. He started this work in 2024, but he just finished some of it and posted that like 5-6 days ago.
That's awesome. I'm in love with it, and I see immediate use for it. Immediate.
Oh, yeah.
I like the one at 432 with the 3 rings.
Yes.
I remember seeing an old movie, Metropolis. And they make this robotic woman, and then she's surrounded by rings with lights going around her like that and becomes alive. The AI is real, and the movie continues. But yeah, they animate her with moving fields like that, with rings of different sizes.
Yeah.
And Tesla's first tower, Wardenclyffe, had the big rings in the donut structure. I don't know.
Oh, and by the way, that whole entire tower at Wardenclyffe, I'd mapped it out. The entire thing is structured the way that you would probably expect geometrically. It's a non-structural tower. It was.
Just to let you know, DK Diker is building the top of it right now. He's already built 2 versions of it, and he's working on finalizing to get the frequencies out of it.
If you want the full thing of what he got out of it, you have to go beam by beam, angle by angle, in proportion, because all of every single beam that crossed for the very reason it was an Chicago lattice that just wrapped around the entire thing, and it was in a proportionally decreasing sizes, to match the proportions of the tower. So nothing that he did with that tower was a mistake, or just because it needed to stand and withstand wind or something. He did it so it literally structured the energy in that fashion from the get-go.
Nice.
Yeah, that's something I've been noticing is angle when it comes to fields is important to building isopotentials. Yeah, I did not know that just a simple change of one magnet next to the other could make your lobes totally different.
I think this is where people get lost with this, the spiral mathematics and just how the vectoring chart goes, because you got to realize that if there's 9 points on it, like I was saying, or even 10 if you add that 4.5, right? Everything is a plot around the circle of 360 degrees, meaning that every time you go from one number to another, it represents a specific angle. Those angles are directly correlate and double until they half. And that's, you have to realize that this is why it's the goods are there. Like, the proportions.
Hold on. We should get together on this with Robert and he can map it out with us. Robert does a whole bunch of stuff on the computer and how do I say, animation and everything like that, and he's really good with numbers and stuff like that for formulas.
I've got something for him then.
And then he's designing the thing for the gravity flyer to put the sensors on it and everything to compute all the data that comes out of it. But the reason I say it in this is because